Hello and welcome. My name is Leslie Stearns. I'm a talent development facilitator here at Workforce Solutions Rural Capital Area. And this workshop is entitled Preparing for the Interview. The objectives of the presentation, we're going to become familiar with the various types of interviews. We're also going to understand how to research and get prepared for the interview. We'll talk about practicing common and difficult interview questions so that you'll be able to reinforce all of your qualifications for the position you're interviewing for. We'll also know how to make a positive first impression and properly close an interview, as well as discuss what you need to do after the interview has taken place. Keys to an interview. Look at the interview from the employer's perspective. As you're answering questions, all of your answers need to reinforce why you are the perfect candidate to fill the role. You want to continue to answer questions and reinforce your qualifications, talk about your assets, and also your good personality traits. And it's very important to build a rapport with everyone on the interview panel. Or even if it's just a one on one interview, try to come up with some type of small talk that you can break the ice with when the interview starts. Research the company, and talk about how you understand its mission. There are many types of interviews that take place. There's the phone interview. The phone interview is where an employer can screen candidates very quickly. It saves time and cost for everyone, and it can help identify candidates with good communication skills. And there are some drawbacks to a phone interview. You want to be sure you're in a location where the call won't drop or have interference or interruption or maybe even background noise. And it can be a little difficult when there's no eye contact or body language can't be read by either party. So it could make it a little hard to build rapport when you don't have that face to face connection. So be on your game. And some prep tips. Go ahead and dress for the interview, even though it's over the phone. This will help build your confidence and put you in the right mindset. Be sure to review the job description and company website again prior to the call. And the nice thing about it is while you're on the phone call, you could have your laptop up or your computer, maybe with some talking points you want to make sure you don't miss. And it's important to practice questions the morning of the call and stay focused. Again, have all your materials ready for to reference. The average time takes about anywhere from 15 to 30 minutes, and most likely you can expect basic questions to determine your qualifications and if you're going to continue with the hiring process. Then there's digital interviews. Digital interviews might be a recorded interview when you hit apply and in your responses to your application, you might be invited to do a recorded or digital interview. Some pros to a digital interview: the employer can view your responses and to specific position related questions. This process does save time and cost for everyone and can identify candidates with good communication and personal skills. It can provide less pressure for some candidates. A few drawbacks to a digital interview: you have limited time to think before the recording begins. So be prepared. There's no eye to eye contact or body language, and so there's no rapport that can be built. And sometimes it can be a little stressful if you're not a quick thinker or less tech savvy. So, some preparation tips for a digital interview: be prepared. Read the instructions, take advantage of practice runs. There's a link called Hire View. It's the leader of digital technology, and you can research that on the internet and maybe take a dry run and try to get prepared on what that process may be like. Be sure to research the company, and you want to make sure when appropriate to use the brand in your responses. Pick a good location with favorable lighting. Dress to impress because you're going to be recorded. So it takes about 10 to 15 minutes for a digital interview. And so you need to prepare. Sometimes things can time you out or there can be some technical issues. Then there's the video or Skype interview, that virtual interview. This is a platform where you have the ability to see each other and read each other's body language. And it's good for long distance candidates as well. Drawbacks to a video interview could be technical issues, software problems, not easy to connect with another person in the meeting. So be on your game. The candidate pool could be larger. So, some prep tips: set up the account with the software prior to the interview day. Familiarize yourself with its process. Maybe check YouTube for how to videos. Maybe even practice with a family member, uh, you know, or reach out to staff here at Workforce Solutions and we can schedule a mock interview. And that'll help you check your tech as well. These types of interviews take about 30 minutes, and there could be some possible delays over the video line. So you just want to make sure that you're not over speaking each other in a video interview. Then there's the panel interview. And panel interviews reduce the biases of the part of the interviewers. You have the opportunity to gain different perspectives of the position, company, and you might even be interviewed by some of your future teammates. Drawbacks to a panel interview: the risk of interviewers not agreeing on a candidate, and it can be unsettling sometimes to have all eyes on you. So, the best thing to do is be prepared. Schedule a mock interview, practice some interview questions, and have some success stories that you want to bring up about your abilities. Length of a panel interview can take about 45 minutes, and interviewers will take turns asking questions. They may take notes, so smile during awkward pauses. Then there's the group interview. And so, in group interviews, when a lot of folks are all together at the same time, you'll need to be prepared. Maybe have a good icebreaker. Everyone is not necessarily completing for the same job, it just might be they're conducting many different interviews for different positions as well. And in group interviews, this is where employers can assess team building and many other skills. So be prepared to work in teams, show your interpersonal and team working skills. Might have to be a little assertive to be noticed. Now, some drawbacks to group interviews: it can be more difficult to attain the attention from the deciding manager. Some candidates perform better individually. So, what to expect? The length can be anywhere from an hour to maybe even an hour and a half. And there might be some group or teamwork activities. Then there's a good old fashioned one on one interview. This is where the employer and candidate can build rapport and read body language very easily. Maybe have that instant chemistry as well. Employers can gain assessments of the candidate's qualifications. Mm, Some cons to a one on one interview: these interviews can be costly. Time and travel can add up, and the candidate can be a little nervous and maybe affect the bias of the employer. So, here's some good tips: practice. Practice those interview questions. Maybe have a mock interview. Be aware of your body language, your appearance. Eyes are on you. And a one-on-one interview can take about 45 minutes. There's more, it's more personal and focused on attention. And then there's assessments. Assessments may take place right after the interview or even if it's a recorded interview. So check your email. Make sure you're not missing any invite in the interview process. And if you complete a one on one interview and are asked to take the assessment, this is where they can assess the skills essential for the position so that you can complete everything successfully. Recent graduate candidates can have maybe an upper advantage, and employers can evaluate a large candidate pool for specific skills. Some drawbacks to assessments: it's no eye contact, no body language. Try not to be nervous. You're going to perform below your standards and maybe get dismissed from the hiring process. Then assessments could be anything from your uh, knowledge and experience with Excel or maybe some kind of software program that you might be utilizing. It also could be a behavioral assessment. So when you're answering questions, don't think of right or wrong answer. Think of the best answer that the employer would need to see to know you're the best qualified candidate. And researching the organization. You probably did this when you were finding the opportunity and you hit apply. But it's important to study labor market information because you want to know your worth ahead of that salary negotiation. You want to learn about the employer through your networking contacts if you can prior to the interview and utilize online resources, maybe for information and maybe reviews of the company, maybe even some questions that they continually ask their candidates. It's also really important to study the company's history, their blog and news feed. This will give you some insight into maybe some upcoming projects and things that you can bring up in your interview. You also want to determine what you can do to fill the employer's needs. And again, underline you're the perfect candidate. So utilize Indeed, your networking resources. Look at Glassdoor as well as LinkedIn. And you can go to labor market and career information. This way you can study the occupation, put in your years of education, and really get a good figure so that when it comes down to salary, you'll be able to ask for a salary that will meet your needs and the position you're going to fulfill. What to wear to an interview. You know, this is where researching the company really comes into play. Maybe it'll give some insight to help you to determine the appropriate attire to wear for an interview. But smart casual is a good way to go. Either a neutral button down shirt, maybe no jacket or tie would be needed. Casual leather or suede shoes are super, and neutral colored pants. Jeans may not be the way to go until you know what the company's dress policy is. So some kind of light colored khakis or black pants. Maybe a neutral blouse or a top, mild patterns, maybe just a solid color, especially if you're doing a video interview. You don't want anything to detract from you. Neutral colored pants and casual shoes or ballet flats will do as well for smart casual. Then there's business casual, a little bump up from smart casual. Maybe you're going to wear a jacket instead, and you may decide whether or not you need to wear a tie. Tailored maybe dress pants or a dress suit, a tailored neutral colored blouse and blazer or sweater. And again, always wear closed-toed shoes until you know the company's policy. And our last example is business formal. Depending on the company and the type of interview, this might require a full suit that you'll need to have that matches the occasion. Formal attire, meaning matching jacket and pants, polished leather shoes, and maybe, a suit pant or slacks. Good colors would be black, navy, or gray. And go for a traditional suit. You can keep it a little feminine if you'd like. And there's lots of great options for women's these days, whether it's going to be a suit, pantsuit, or a skirt and jacket. And what to have ready when you go to an interview or when you're having a virtual interview, even a phone. You want to go ahead and have a list of at least 3 to 5 references, their contact information ready to go. Extra copies of your resume, either printed out or be sure to have your resume readily available on your phone or on your desktop of your computer. That way, if you need to email it prior to the start to any newcomers to the panel interview, you'll have it ready. And always have questions ready to ask the employer. Have a pen and paper on standby. Let individuals know you'll be taking notes through the interview. You might also bring work samples, so have those ready. That's optional. And maybe if you're a graphic artist or a web designer, some of your samples. And always take copies of documents the employer has requested. One thing I like to tell job seekers is have your photo ID and your social security card readily available, as well as know your banking and routing number. If the interview goes so well that they offer you the job, they might start the onboarding process right then. But always have a big smile. Even when you're on the phone, you usually can tell when someone is smiling when they're speaking. But do take your phone to an interview, but put it on silent. You don't want any interruptions. And dealing with interview fear. Yep, I don't care how many interviews you've been on. And sometimes it can be a little nervy when you're going to be going to an interview, especially if it's a panel interview. So we've got some tips to help reduce that nervousness. And the first thing is eat a good breakfast or lunch. A great interview starts with a great meal. For some, this means going the healthy route. For others, it could be indulging on your favorite comfort food. There's no right answer, just make it right for you and make it food. No one can give a solid interview responses when their stomach is grumbling. Give yourself a pep talk. It's not crazy to talk to yourself. It's smart. And actually, it's scientifically proven to help motivate yourself. So tell yourself all the things you need to hear before the interview. I'm smart. I'm qualified for this role and I'm going to nail it. Say it out loud. It makes it really stick. And say it with confidence. And before the interview, call an uplifting friend. Nothing's better than the encouragement of a caring, positive friend or family member. Reach out to us here at Workforce Solutions. We'll give you a good pep talk and maybe help practice some of those interview questions because practice makes perfect. You want to review the job description, make a list of questions the employers may ask. You also want to prepare success stories and behavioral responses using either the STAR, START, or experience plus learn equal grow methods. We'll talk about those in just a moment. You know, Practicing really will decrease nervousness and it also will increase your confidence. And a quote from Vince Lombardi: practice does not make perfect, only perfect practice makes perfect. You want to listen carefully to determine the question behind the question. You want to practice your responses out loud. You want to practice with someone else or maybe even just in front of a mirror. And nowadays we've got our phones, you can record yourself and pay it back to review. This way, you can also look at your nonverbal cues, your body language, your eye contact. Are your shoulders relaxed? Are you... And answering behavioral questions. This is the STAR method. These questions typically start out with, tell me about a time when you, or how did you execute Project X? It's really important. You want to emphasize what you did in your past and how you made a difference because your past behavior really does predict your future success. And you'll definitely gain points when employers are impressed with your stories. So again, for the STAR method, you're going to describe a situation and the tasks. Describe the goal that you were working towards within that situation. You'll talk about the actions, the steps you took to achieve that goal, and the result. What were the positive results of your action, and how did it benefit your team or the company? Another behavioral response is the experience plus learn equal grow. You want to prepare your responses using the following. Again, your experience, summarizing a situation from your past, and learn. Share what the situation taught you, and then grow. Discuss what you learned and how you be more of a valuable employee because of your past behavior. Every experience is an opportunity to learn and grow. And then there's the START method. If you're changing a career, you might want to consider using the START method for those behavioral questions. Because this is where you're going to describe a situation, a specific time where you were involved and the result was a positive outcome. Again, the tasks describe the goal that you were working towards within the situation. Actions. This is the section that's the bulk of the story. You're going to talk about the steps you took to achieve that goal. The results. What were the positive results of your action? You're going to highlight and dive in deep. And then the tie. This is where you connect the dots and tie the story to the company and position you're interviewing for. First impressions really do matter. You want to energize the interview by having a friendly smile. It's very important. And These are those common nonverbal that we have, our first impression, our body language, how we walk in with confidence, our knowledge, our eye contact, having good posture, maybe not having our arms crossed or, wiggling our foot about. This is where practicing with others before the interview or scheduling a mock interview will help you understand that first impression and settle your nerves a bit. Workforce Solutions, rural capital area, offers LinkedIn Learning to all of our job seekers. This is free, and if you're interested, reach out to us. At the end of the presentation, I'll have our web link. We can sign you up for this tool. Whether you're walking into a meeting or an interview or a negotiation, you need to know how to instantly build rapport and the ability to make a lasting first impression. And so this is a short video that is offered to you when you sign up for LinkedIn Learning. And this is creating great first impressions, the power of first impressions. And it's important because you want to display your confidence through your body language. You want to have a good attitude. Confidence are key to landing a job. Even though a job hunter might feel confident on the inside, your body language could tell a completely different story. So, an interview starts the second you get there to the interview site or pick up the phone or click on a virtual interview. So, good posture and a calm demeanor are essential. Whether you're in the office or in the parking lot, you want to realize that the minute you get there, everyone is noticing you. So, when you do finally meet the hiring manager, a good smile and eye contact, a firm handshake displays confidence. And a smile is particularly important. You know, Smiling is so important that 40% of interviewers say not having a smile is reason enough not to consider a candidate. You know, we're very visual individuals. Did you know that when you're meeting someone that 55% of what we take in when we meet another person is nonverbal cues? 7% is only actual words we say. And so it's important to practice opening an interview. You want to be energetic, friendly, and smile. You want to introduce yourself and, use those appropriate nonverbal communication. You know, Having your shoulders back and down, being calm and sitting up straight, eye to eye contact. Offer to provide a resume if you need to, and always thank the interviewers for their time at the beginning of the interview as well as at the end. And question behind the question. Employers are looking for answers, and there's specific questions that they're going to ask, basic questions. And so practicing really does help. One of them could be, why are you interested in this company? Asking this question, they want to know why you're applying with them. Why are you not working for their competitors? And to answer this effectively, you must do research on the company and know why it would be a good place to work. Another question might be, what can you do for this company? How can you benefit the company if you're hired? This is where they want to know if you've got the skills to complete the tasks for the open position. They want to know if you will be a positive addition to the team they've already established. To answer this question, you must know what position you're applying for and the required tasks and abilities. Another question may be, what kind of person are you? This is where they want to know about your personality, your work habits, and your assets. So you want to be sure, do your values match the company? You need to know what your assets are and be able to communicate these in examples from your past. Another question example, what sets you apart from everyone else? This is one they want to know if the employer is having interviewed 17 people that are all capable and completing the tasks of the position, why should they hire you? Do you have a better work ethic? Will you show up early and stay later than everyone else? Do you work efficiently? And so you need to know what sets you apart from others. And common interview questions. These are really good ones to practice with. In other words, usually the first one that someone asks is, tell me about yourself. Now they're not wanting to know where you grew up or if you have a family or if you know, like raising dogs. They want to know what you can bring to the role. So this is when you need to have a good icebreaker. Prepare ahead of time, developing your own personal brand statement that clearly tells who you are and your major strengths. Why do you want to work for this company? Again, this is where you're going to research the company before and explain how you're going to be their pain point. You're going to be the solution to why they're hiring for the role. And this is where you'll answer, what are your greatest strengths? You want to talk about, sometimes you might feel like it's bragging, but an interview at this point, this is where you do need to brag about your abilities. It's the place to promote your assets that you have that relate to the job you're applying for. So again, you're going to use this opportunity through this question to showcase your qualifications and skills. And what are your greatest weaknesses? Never admit a weakness without turning it into a strength. Address a weakness that may not be a problem on the job. So, for example, if you're applying for a nursing job, you might share that you're not particularly adept in conducting group presentations. In this case, it could be crucial to underscore your strength in one or more communications with patients. But providing an example of your difficulty in presenting to larger groups, you again turn that around into a strength. Another example of a question that might be asked, what are your goals in the future and where do you see yourself in 5 years? The best way to respond to this interview question is to refer to the position and the company for which you're interviewing for. Don't discuss goals like either returning to school, having a family, or I want to retire in 7 years. You want to know exactly what you're going to be doing in the future, and you need to answer and how this job fits your current plans. You you need to make sure the employer knows that you're the right person for the job and you're going to be around for a while. You want to continue to grow with the company you're applied with. Another common interview question, give me an example of a time when there's your behavioral questions. This is when you want to utilize either the STAR method or experience plus learn equal grow. Remember, you always want to make a connection between the job and your skills to show you're qualified to do the job when you need to do so. Another question, what has been your most significant achievement? These are your success stories. You want to talk about and describe your accomplishments and highlight job-related skills you've used in the past. Point out how the result benefited the company and team and that you can do it again. Why should I hire you? Remember, it's not about you. It's what you can do for the company. So take a few moments to compare the job description with your abilities, as well as mentioning that you've accomplished in your other positions. Be positive and reiterate your interest in the company and the position. Another common interview question is, how do you handle stress and pressure? Every job is going to have lots of changes, lots of different uh, possible stress that can arise. So talk about managing stress in the workplace. It is commonplace in managing productivity. Employers want to know how you'll typically respond to pressure-filled situations. So if you indicate you need to indicate to the employer that maybe you take a time out during the workday, or you're able to maybe reach out to teammates and provide assistance in a stressful situation. And our last example of a common interview question is, how would your last boss or coworker describe you? This is your opportunity to focus on the positive. The best answer to this question is to say that they would describe you as a pleasant person who works well with others. You know, Put forth that positive traits about yourself as well as hardworking, being efficient, dependable, easygoing, maybe even funny or witty. Practice is the key, though. And sometimes there are questions that are difficult to answer. And these difficult questions require a prepared response. It could be termination, a new manager, you'll need to have some type of prepared response. And so never say anything negative about an employer. Just say maybe that there was a restructuring, and at one point, the new manager decided to let me go, so I was terminated. It could be that you were laid off or the job ended. And when it comes to disability, know that you do not have to disclose due to the Americans with Disabilities Act. It limits interviewers to ask people about disabilities prior to offering a job. It's best to say no if asked, and only when you're offered the job. If you need some kind of a special accommodation, that's when you would bring up anything that might need to be taken care of. And background checks. Know that you will be uh, part of the interview process is to conduct a background check. So if you have some type of justice involved background, the best thing to do is to own the situation. Bring it up. Don't let it be a surprise during that background check. Talk about what you learned from your situation. And there are many employers that, or what we call friendly employers, that give individuals a second chance. And gaps in work history. Now, employers are getting used to gaps in work history, definitely after the pandemic, but talk about what you did in between work experiences. Maybe you took care of a loved one, or you were taking online classes, or maybe finishing school. Always talk about what you did in between work history with a positive light. Questions for the employer. It is very important to have a list of questions that you want to ask the employer. So you need to ask at least 3. And this is to help you find out more information that already hadn't been discussed. So you want to avoid asking questions that can easily be found online about the company or the position. Really is your opportunity to ask about something you've learned in your company research. This will help build rapport with your interviewer or interviewers. So always ask a question to gain insight on something you didn't find in your research. So here's some sample questions. And I really like number 1. This is a very good way for you to sort of let them know that you're vested in this position. And this question starts with, what are 3 things I can contribute in the first 100 days to make you feel great about hiring me? Again, I really like that one. Another question you could ask, how is my performance measured in this position? You could also ask, what is the work culture like? Can you tell me about the team I'll be working with? Is there any more information I can provide you with? I always like using number 5. And I always tell my job seekers to use number 6. What is the timeline for deciding on this position? And when should I get back in touch with you? This way you'll know when they're going to start reaching out to candidates they've chosen. And salary negotiation. We do offer a workshop. All of our workshops are virtual, and you can find those on our website. And you can attend salary negotiation techniques. I highly recommend it because you want to avoid being the first one to mention salary. Usually the first one that does loses. So it's really important to research your fair market value because you want to determine a realistic salary range for you, your abilities, and your years of experience and your education. And always negotiate if possible. So there's many resources to help you have a clear range. You can look for labor market and career information. Look on Glassdoor or Indeed. Put in your occupation, your years of experience, your education, and see what the going salary rate is for your position. And you want to have a range and also a clear number that you want to ask for. Labor market information can also be found through the Workforce Solutions Rural Capital Area, Rural Capital Headlight. We service the 9 counties around Travis, and you can easily access industry trends, employers that are hiring. You can look at occupations from everywhere from what a specific occupation, maybe program manager would pay in Dripping Springs, Cedar Park, or even San Marcos or LaGrange. Workintexas.com is a website that Workforce Solutions Rural Capital Area utilizes as and it's offered by the Texas Workforce Commission. This is where employers can post their jobs and job seekers their resumes so the two can connect. But you can also find valuable labor market information on your workintexas.com profile as well. And closing the interview. This is really important to thank the interviewers again for their time. You want to let them know that you want to be considered for the next steps in the hiring process, and also mention specific reasons why you hope you're selected. And post interview. Once the interview has taken place, send a thank you letter, an email, a thank you email, or maybe even a LinkedIn message with a contact request. Now, some individuals have asked, how soon do I send out that email? I would say within a few hours after the interview has been conducted, no longer than 24, because you want to make plans to follow up and you want to keep your name fresh but respectfully. You want to prepare for the job offer and practice your salary negotiation. You also want to continue with your job search. When you attend our workshops at Rural Capital Area, we do offer a workbook, and it's a virtual event. And once the presentation is completed, we send all attendees the workbook as well as samples. And a sample thank you letter comes along when you attend our preparing for the interview workshop. I want to thank you for spending some time with me on this workshop, preparing for the interview. Do know that our website is www.workforcesolutionsrca.com. This is where you can go to look at all the services and programs that we provide. We also have our own mobile app for Workforce Solutions Rural Capital Area. The QR code is here, and you can take a screenshot of it. You'll gain access to our Jobs Now portal to look for current opportunities, as well as to check out our workshop calendar of events. All different types of topics that we offer are finding your career path, rocking your LinkedIn profile, or maybe creating effective resumes. You can also look for our virtual job fair events. So thank you again for attending this workshop. And if you are interested in our services, please don't hesitate to reach out to us. All of our offices are open, and you can find our locations and contact information again on our web address on the screen. Thank you for your time.